Welcome to the final Big Brother Canada 3 recap episode of the YATNcast podcast. My name is Michael Harmstone, and joining me as ever is our Canadian who had day 50 imprinted on his brain, Logan Saunders.
Evening.
And the Australian who will own Willow if you want him to, Ben Powell.
Howdy.
You can tweet us using the hashtag YATNcast or email us at yatncast@gmail.com. So, did we enjoy the final week?
Yes.
Not the first half, but the last half definitely.
As soon as Ashley won veto, I think everyone knew that Brittany was dead in the water. But it was nice to have a decent winner at least, one who we can be happy with.
I'd say she's the best winner. She's easily the best, not even just Big Brother Canada winner. She's the best, Big Brother US winner that's happened in a while.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But having said that, Big Brother Canada does tend to have pretty good winners.
Yeah, even my least favourite, Jillian, is still probably pretty far up on the list of my reality television winners.
Well, Jillian's helped by the fact that she won by just complete ridiculousness. She didn't...
And
almost lost by complete
well,
ridiculousness.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but she almost broke the record for head of household wins, even before going to the final head of household competition.
So previously, when Sarah went to hell and back and won HOH, she targeted Zach. He scrambled and wouldn't stop campaigning or grinding, but he was evicted. Brittany flew through the HOH competition and targeted the remaining Diaper Alliance members, but Ashley came from behind to stay on track to the final four. And the first tie vote in Big Brother Canada history saw Brittany break the tie and break up the Diaper Alliance for good and send Peely home.
Okay.
Ready? Okay. And Sarah's sort of statement to Ashley after the double eviction was just glorious. It was just, what a rough night for you. No, I'm sorry about that. It was just, what a rough night. And Ashley decides to latch onto Godfrey to stop being alone.
Because as she pointed out, it's the final four, so now it's time for her to actually, start going close to other people at the final four. Where there's 3 people left in the house.
That's when you make big moves.
My favourite tweet as the show was happening was when June was watching it. Was when I was looking at June watching it, and she quoted that. Now it's final four. Now it's the final four. I should really start getting close to the other house guests. And then she's like, "Wait, now?"
So for the first HOH competition of the week, it's called Voice of House Past. They'll hear a series of memorable quotes played through an automated machine, and house guests must spin their dial with house guest's face on it to the correct face. The person with the most answers correct is the new head of household.
It was very uncanny hearing just emotional house guests be distorted through the most robotic voice possible. I was a little bit creeped out by it, to be honest.
Hashtag 604. Hashtag Ginger Ninja. Hashtag peace.
So, Brittany, as far as she's concerned, will be going to the final 3 with Sarah, not the final 2. And just one quote, because this really wasn't an interesting HOH competition. First I'm thinking Bobby, and then I realise it's Bruno. And Sarah, he's talking to you, girlfriend. But yeah, Sarah wins.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we get out of the HOH competition.
Yeah, quiz competitions are never fun to recap, because it's just Ben nagging me about reading out the questions. And Sarah and Brittany feel like a power duo. Everyone called them floaters. Wrong.
A point right at the camera screen with Sarah in the diary room, as if we were the ones that were wrong all along. We believed in them, I think. And
Ashley was so unbelievably unsubtle when she was talking to Brittany and Sarah, actually, about trying to split them up.
Did you hear her during the first episode, which we all knew was basically a formality because that's all they are, how she was talking about how talking to I think she was talking to Sarah, but a lot of her dialogue choices involved talking about what Zach told her to do.
Well, I think that was deliberate from the producers because they like Zach and I don't think they particularly like Ashley.
I'd say they don't actually like Zach that much. Apart from all the screen time they gave him, I think it was mostly a I say it's more like a Roddy thing where, you know, they're building him up as an obstacle for Sarah and Brittany to overcome rather than like someone that they have any invested interest in and want to win the season.
Zach doesn't look quite as much as Charlie Sheen though as Roddy did.
But yeah, I think he was more built up like, you know, more built up like a villain rather than actually, you know, someone the producers had an investment in. I mean, out of everyone in the final six, I would have wanted him to see win the least, and I think the audience share that sentiment because there was a lot of cheering when he was voted out, wasn't there?
There's a lot of cheering for anyone but Sarah and Brittany getting voted out, I think. I know you don't particularly like me talking about the sideshow, but last week's one was hilariously awkward because they did bring up the tweet between Zach and Peter.
I still love that the universe loves its comic balance.
Yeah, not only did they both achieve sixth place, but for once Peter actually took the high ground. He didn't slag Zach off that much, and basically said, "I forgive you."
Yeah, but that comes to the fact that, you know, that was after months of like both Peter and Alec acting like wounded beasts on Twitter, going, whining at all the former cast members who said they liked Zach. So, and then Peter was having this thing about it's real nice to make fun of someone with a severe a severe food aversion, a severe medical condition, and then I ended up tweeting him like, refusing to make adult life choices is not a severe food condition, and then I was blocked by Peter Brown on Twitter.
Ben's little piece of Big Brother Canada history there.
It's almost as fun as the time I got blocked by Aaron.
And then we get probably the best bit of the first episode, the Big Brother Canada Awards.
Yay!
Because if there's something we need, it's more Gary and Ica.
I agree with the latter, maybe not so much the former.
I'm so happy that Ica got dragged into this year.
She didn't even shred any dresses. That was the biggest disappointment of all. Or after she made Godfrey shave his dreadlocks, she should have put that through his, or not the dreadlocks, his goatee there, and should have thrown that through a shredder. That would have been hilarious.
I just like the fact that she basically followed Godfrey around and tried to make him think he had a chance with her.
At least B would just shut down his dreams right on the spot. I could just strung him along.
Everyone needs a Gary touch, according to Sarah.
Gary's probably is my favorite contestant from Big Brother Canada, and I'd venture a guess to say he's probably also one of my favorite Big Brother contestants worldwide. So I disagree with the whole we don't need more of him. I mean, I don't watch the sideshow, so I don't know what he's like there. So, but on the general Big Brother show, I'd say we need more of him.
Yeah, I can see how if you don't watch a sideshow, you would want more of him. But between him and Peter, they do basically take over the sideshow, despite the fact that Arissa is by far the best part.
I just love me a reincarnation of Grace Jones in a Canadian gay man's body. That's just me.
And Ica also says, Godfrey, I'd almost date you. Obviously, Sarah won the BBTV Skills Award because they weren't going to give it to the naff dancing, or Godfrey's rapping, or Willow's interpretive dance.
Willow's interpretive dance should have been runner-up. I would just like to put that out there.
But, of course, the highlight of the entire thing was everyone finding out about Sarah and Willow. Godfrey's two separate reactions.
He may have self-evicted right on the spot there again. Godfrey just cannot control himself.
Sarah, why did you not tell me about this?
You know, like, looking at these guys in actions when they're just like, you know, not coming out with like really diary confessionals, but like sort of thinking up stuff on the spot to say during the awards ceremony. It really becomes obvious the gigantic leap in quality in housemate between Brittany, Godfrey, Sarah, and then Ashley.
Whereas all Ashley was saying is, Zach didn't tell me about this kiss either. Ashley tries to convince Brittany not to take Sarah to the final three. Not sure she knows how Big Brother works. Yes, that was the right way around, by the way. She did actually have a conversation with Brittany saying she didn't want her to take Sarah to the final three after Sarah had won HOH.
The editors, they buried her. Even though she was literally one question away from winning the show, they still buried her.
Bear in mind that I wrote that and then had to go back on Wednesday to make sure that I didn't have it the wrong way around because I was so sure that she wasn't that stupid. No, she is. And then the girls have a conversation about how Godfrey basically is set up to win if he gets to the final two.
Gee, I wonder how that'll work out for him if Godfrey makes the final two.
And because there's only 4 people left, everyone gets to go on the shortlist. Yay!
The most pointless nomination ceremony of the season. It's still crazy that after 15 years of American-style and now Canadian-style Big Brother, that nominations at Final Four are still treated as being anything more than pointless. They should just
formality.
Yes, yes.
I think it's basically a trap. It's a trap for the Final Four head of household. Basically, it's just an extra little display for them to show where their loyalties lie, just before in the very final week of the show. So,
well, Final 5 nominations are basically moot anyway because anyone can go up on the blog.
Well, it still matters as to who doesn't win veto, though. There's still one other vote with Final Four nominations. It's completely pointless because it doesn't matter who you nominate at all. It's just whoever wins veto just gets to vote out one of the other 2 people. There's no variables there. The nomination ceremony is really just a formality, as Ben said.
Yeah, all it really did last season was show that John was becoming a target, but he managed to veto himself off anyway. And all it did this year was manage to show us that Brittany and Sarah are still a power couple. So yeah, formality.
Something that Zach didn't need to tell Ashley beforehand, I guess. At least Ashley was able to figure it out after that.
But because there's only 4 people left, Sarah has to consider officially nominating Brittany, because she's definitely going to do it. I bet she got to the diary room and was like, guys, I am not saying that I'm going to nominate Brittany. Seriously, go away.
Can I try doing an impression of Ashley?
Go on.
It's going really close to the final 3, and I have a really bad feeling that some of the guys want me out. So I have a feeling that if I get to the final 3, Brittany and Sarah might not take me to the final 2.
I didn't realise that Bethany Hamilton was on this season of Big Brother Canada.
All my impressions are the same. You should have realised that by then, Michael.
Ben Powell, Man of 1,000 Voices. All of them Bethany Hamilton.
I almost feel as bad for Ashley as I do for Peely, just because, at least with Peely, how do I put this? It's that the viewers can identify easier that Peely is just not meant for Big Brother, and she has her own charm and personality that way. But with Ashley, she doesn't get that distinction quite as much, where she's more just like somebody who should have higher expectations, I guess, in terms of gameplay and strategy, but it just doesn't quite flesh out on TV at any point during the season, where it's like, well, she's been invisible for 10 weeks. Maybe we're going to see something, really interesting or compelling come from her, but it really doesn't happen.
Well, I know going back to the sideshow again, but I can see why people like Peely, because she was just really, really nice on the sideshow. She was very endearing.
See, I pointed from week 1 that, Ashley would not be anything to blank at or whatever. Like, one of the first words out of her mouth was, "Here comes depression again." I'm not much of a girly girl. I'm more like hanging out with the guys. So, and I've always pinpointed that any female on Big Brother who utters those words will probably end up being terrible. So.
Well, I think in the preview we basically said she'd be mid-jury. We said she'd get carried along by Zach, surprisingly. It's almost like we predicted that Zach and Ashley would be the only proper showmans.
Oh my god, the 2 blandest people in a bland cast hooking up and becoming a showmance? Who would have thought?
Because we actually decided that Godfrey's ring, which we didn't hear about in the show, would probably be hidden in Zach's bag at some point. To try and break up Zach and Ashley.
I hear you wanted Zach's blood on his ring.
How's that for a blood diamond?
Yeah, Ben. I think that's 1 point for Ben Powell on this one.
So in a shocking turn of events, it's Ashley and Godfrey who were nominated.
Brittany's safe then, right? Brittany's safe because she's not on the block?
Yeah, about that. And then the Power of Veto competition, which I was sorely disappointed was not Marshallland 2, Electric Boogaloo. I wanted a virtual reality Marshallland. Meanies.
I'm surprised with the lack of Marsha this season.
Yeah, so am I. We only saw her once, and that was as a cameo in the road trip. Maybe Trevor Boris wants to get over Marsha now.
Doesn't want to be typecasted as a talking moosehead in
I'm sorry, he has
television.
no input in that. I'm sorry.
Or maybe they thought there's not many more places we can go with Marsha. We need to rest her for a season.
You could do anything with Marsha. You could, descend her from the ceiling in the backyard. Include her entire body as well. Just have a moose descend from the ceiling and grant wishes upon the players or whatever.
Yeah, we need to save it for Big Brother Canada 4 when Logan's going to be on it. Logan's going to be the first Canadian to go on both Big Brother and Amazing Race in the same year. So then everyone gets to compete in the veto competition called Fast Track to Veto. 2 trains are going around a track, each with carriages on numbers on them. House guests must build Main Street by putting buildings with clues on them in the same order as the answers appear on the train. The person who buzzes in with the fastest time wins the final power of veto and the power to evict someone.
This starts off the chain of 3 out of the last 4 competitions being specifically about quizzing day numbers of what went on in the house.
Yeah, you think after the first time they would have learnt their lesson and, revised the day numbers.
Especially when they realize that Ashley apparently has a huge advantage because, unfortunately, she credits Zach for telling her when each event happened on which day throughout the course of the game.
Of course she does.
They weren't smooching.
They ain't lying, too.
You know what Godfrey Manguiza, the lady pleaser, loves more than anything else?
What's that,
Brains?
Michael?
Brain teaser. Godfrey Manguiza, the lady pleaser, loves the brain teaser.
At least a successful rhyming lyric that was well put together. If only he could do it during the BBTV talent show, but hey, better late than never, I guess.
You mock Godfrey's rapping skills, and that's thoroughly deserved because they were terrible. As much as Godfrey is another great character, yeah, don't rap ever again, please. For my sanity's sake.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of you, Michael.
No, they don't. Nothing outweighs my opinions.
I think Godfrey wants your needs on his hands.
My knees on his hands? That's weird.
He's that strong. He is indeed the sleeping giant.
And we've awoken him.
Yes, we played the pokey flute, I believe.
I don't think I was in a Snorlax to a giant flying jump kick.
And Godfrey also has Day 50 imprinted in his mind thanks to Brittany's outfit and her being dressed as a dominatrix. And Brittany becomes Quitney when she gives up.
She pulls a Peely.
She pulls a Peely, and she pulls a Kevin and a Sarah in the spooling around competition.
We find out, though, that she took a really, really long time on that veto before quitting because, 20 minutes or something was Ashley's time to win, and then Brittany references that she's like, you know what, after 90 minutes or so, I knew I had to quit. So at least we know that she put in a really long effort before realizing, you know what, the chances of me winning this is in fact 0%.
18:55 was Ashley's time. But that's not Ashley's best time of the week either. But we'll get to that. So obviously Ashley wins the veto because they can't have it easy. They can't have a great final 3.
She ruined everything.
And Ashley celebrates with her imaginary friends, Kevin, Peely, and Zach.
That's sad that this is like only the 3rd or 4th day that Zach isn't in the house, and Ashley has to pretend that he's there to celebrate her victory.
And Ashley and Godfrey also celebrate by doing the Peely.
Oh, Godfrey loves pandering to both
They make
sides
out
no
with
matter
Kevin?
what.
Yes, they go to the memory wall and make out with Kevin's face. And at the veto ceremony eviction, Ashley vetoes herself, obviously, and then boots Brittany out of the house. But then the episode significantly brightens by the fact that Arissa surprises him with the jury twist.
Can we go back to the eviction for a sec? Has there ever been a Final Four eviction in Big Brother Canada that hasn't been sad? Like, sad because of who's getting booted, or sad because of the actual boot?
No. But this one's sad because it's Ashley, who we don't like, booting out Brittany, who we all like.
Logan, which one was sadder? Which one was sadder, do you think? Tyler's boot or Heather's boot?
Well, I still haven't quite caught the end of Big Brother Canada 1, but so I would say... So my answer is pretty much cast by default.
Heather.
Yeah, Heather's elimination, I think, was a bit more tragic than than Brittany's in this case.
Hers was freaking depressing.
I think that's because we liked all of the final four. Mainly because we like good TV.
Not even just because of the final four. It's because of the whole scene. Because she's talking about how John was like a brother to her, and Big Brother was her dream, and she's going to miss them all so much. And then it just ends with like an extended shot of her sitting in the bedroom, like facing the pillow, just like hysterically crying. It's like, I'm going to need a Prozac.
Yeah, so Arissa calls them all to the living room, and Ashley's first reaction is, again? I mean, hi Arissa.
I was so shocked when Arissa called us the lounge room again. It's the biggest twist in Big Brother Canada history.
So the final three must unanimously decide on one person from the jury to be evicted. They'll be locked in the vault until they decide, and the jury member involved will get to cast their vote first and then find out.
Oh, I have one thing that I would like to point out about the whole Final Four special eviction crap that went on, is that Arissa, this is a very nitpicky thing, but Arissa said, by the end of the hour, one of you is going to be evicted, and then we had to rewind in time and find out who won veto, and then we find out it's Ashley. But when you combine all the times together, it couldn't have been in less than an hour, considering Brittany took 90 minutes alone. So it was probably like 2 or 3 hours that it at least took before Brittany could have even been evicted. So it's just one of those little annoying things about all that transpired that went down during the special eviction night.
I think the veto was filmed before the special eviction was, Logan.
Oh, right. Because they rewind back in time. That's what made it confusing. Right. I gotcha.
Yeah, I think the nominations were Thursday, the veto was Friday, and the special eviction was Saturday.
Which isn't really that big of a twist, because I'm sure Ashley figured out who she was going to evict about 0.1 seconds after she won the power of veto.
Well, I'm pretty sure the only reason that they filmed the special eviction on Saturday was just in case they spent 3 days in the vault.
All 3 players died in the vault, and nobody wins Big Brother Canada.
Technically, the winner of Big Brother Canada is Brittany, because she was 4th place. I wonder if they would have started spraying them with cold water if they would have spent a couple of days in the vault. Because, this is Big Brother Canada, they seem to like involving cold water and things.
What, just bring in that clown.
Yes, just to chase Ashley around the vault.
Big Brother, make it stop!
Did you hear that the clown actually reappeared later last week?
No, I did not.
They decided to just put the clown behind the mirrors in the bedroom and start flickering the lights.
Really?
How could they not show that on the show?
It was on the sideshow. It was the extra scene that they showed on the sideshow. But, yeah, the clown just started hiding behind the mirrors later in the evening, I think, the same day as the HOH competition. Just sort of hiding behind the mirrors, having a light in front of his face, and flickering the lights.
That would have been more entertaining than half of what went on in that 2-hour finale, so I don't know how that was left out.
No, neither do I, because it was hilarious, and as you'd expect, Ashley was absolutely shit scared. And if you want Sarah to own Willow, she'll effing own Willow. I just love how sort of angry everyone got at the prospect of having to spend a couple of days in the vault. Godfrey got quite aggressive, Ashley got very aggressive and quite sassy, and Sarah owned effing Willow.
Do you think this was really the whole showdown in the vault to figure out who they were going to eject from the jury? That was the first major tip-off that Godfrey is probably not going to win this game no matter who he goes to the final 2 with. Because the other 2 just grabbed who they wanted to be as their 2 main people as jury votes right away, and then Godfrey just has to stumble around and then just have to reduce himself to playing over-the-top mind games with Ashley and Sarah because he thinks he's smarter than Plato and Socrates combined. But it was just over-the-top mind games, which I think was overall a cover-up for him probably catching on that he may not be winning Big Brother Canada.
Yeah, and actually, Bobby and Bruno were the only 2 people to vote for him.
And Sarah and Ashley had to point that out to him. Godfrey couldn't even make that determination himself.
And that's only because Bobby and Bruno really, really didn't want to vote for Sarah. I think they probably would have voted for Sarah if they were voting strictly on who played the best game rather than who they liked the most.
Chop shop.
Yeah, but everyone votes on who they like the best. I mean, you could dress it up. You can dress it up in all the. I'm very strategically. I'm voting for who played the best game. You can dress it up in all of that, but like, if they hate the person if they hate someone who got them out of their house or was never in danger, or whatever, they're not going to get their vote.
So you think Brittany was lying when she said it was all game and no emotion when she cast her jury vote?
Yeah, I think Brittany was pretty much a lock for Sarah. I don't think there was any doubt there. And then we had an extortionately long recap at the start of the finale.
Yeah, let's skip over that.
That was my fast-forward voice. It sounded a lot like Bethany Hamilton.
As do all your voices. I can't believe it's a finale. Anyone who just listens to our Big Brother Canada recaps will not know what the hell we're on about there.
If only they watched The Amazing Race 25.
Yeah.
Tisk, tisk.
Do it, it's awesome.
It's awesome.
It's way gnarly.
That 10-minute intro was just way too overdramatic for me. In fact, probably half of this finale was just a tad bit overdramatic. It wasn't really all that comedic whatsoever.
I'm not going to lie, I rolled my eyes heavily when I heard it was going to be a 2-hour finale.
But at least there's there's stuff you can skip. Like when a former winner shows up, or when they do that 20-minute recap at the start.
Yeah, what was with that specifically filmed recap of like Sarah sitting on the have-not bed and that sort of stuff? It was weird.
That was cool though. That was cool though.
It was cool, but it was weird.
I didn't like the extended, boring recap of the entire season, but I liked the stylistic thing they did with Godfrey, Ashley, and Sarah at the start, where I gotta imagine how they filmed that.
Yeah, I wonder if they just sort of sat them down at the start of like Monday or Tuesday and went, you know what, guys, we need you to film these scenes and this voiceover for us.
Well, there had to have been some cameras in the house, like actually inside the house, beyond the mirrors. So
yeah, there would have had to be at least a camera halfway through the have-not room to film Sarah's bit, I think. Either that or they got very powerful cameras behind the mirrors.
Or they can film through the walls.
Oh, they're magic.
But yeah, I like it when the brother goes over dramatic, but not to the extent of doing it, extendedly. Like I don't like the 20-minute recap at the start of the season where we have to find out everything that happened in the season over again. Yeah,
especially when they start it off by saying Ashley had a solid ally in Zach and say that the chop shop was menacing, the whole boys versus girls thing. So anyway, the first HOH competition.
This was pretty much a copy from the first task from the Mole 5, if I'm not mistaken. The US version, that is. The final Mole.
I thought it was the one with the jumping over the waterfalls for the Mole 5.
Oh, the waterfall. Oh, yeah, that's the first task. The second task is the hourglass one. Right. The second task in the first episode of the Mole 5 is pretty much what we see as part 1 of this HOH competition.
Yeah, I was going to say that the first one was the one where the mole deliberately tried to strangle themselves.
Yep.
The second one was the one where Nicole was the sort of caller and had to stay out on the beach, but won an exemption for it.
Ah, Nicole. I'm going to kill you while you sleep. I can do it and not leave any forensic evidence.
She was such a great piece of casting.
The only great piece of casting that season.
If the mole wasn't so obvious, I think they would have been a good bit of casting as well. I think they would have been a good player. And to a lesser extent Paul as well, because of all the stuff that he made everyone else do. 'Cause we're Paul free, and van number 2, I'm singing Paul free.
You hear my disagreement?
Ben, I hear your disagreement very frequently.
So you're not going to... So I'm gathering, Ben, that you're not going to watch his reality TV documentary?
No.
I think he interviewed Nicole at one point. I guess Nicole lost her job because of how, I guess, her employer reacted to her being on the Mole once it aired.
Oh, of course.
I wonder what she said that made them fire her. Maybe it was the bit where she said, I can kill you when you sleep and leave no forensic evidence.
But hey, she did end up beating him in that game, so...
Anyway, The first HOH competition is called the End of Time. Each house guest has a tank with more than a ton of sand in it. Once the competition starts, sand will begin emptying from the tank, and they must fill up a bucket and bring it back up to the top of the tank. The last person with sand in that tank is the winner of the first part of the HOH competition, and head straight to part 3.
Ah, shut up, as Ashley would say.
Thanks. Much better Ashley impression than Ben's Bethany Hamilton / Ashley impression.
Hey, I'm Australian. There's not much I can do.
Very true.
I like how
Logan has the market on impressions here because he actually has the accent for it. Well, vaguely the accent to it. Closest to the accent to it. No, it's basically the same accent to it. Never mind.
But yeah, I love how Ashley went from, Albertan Calgary person to suddenly New York accent when she tells Godfrey to shut up during the competition.
Come on!
But in this HOH competition, just with Ashley getting frustrated with Godfrey, besides the edited out part with Godfrey wanting Ashley sand on his hands, Godfrey really really wanted to win part 1 of this HOH competition. I guess when he's not being quizzed on day numbers and stuff, he can pull out a win.
Yeah, I think he knew that this was his best chance to get to part 3. I think he probably felt a lot more confident with the endurance one than the quiz ones. So there's also earthquakes and ash clouds, not Ashley clouds, to distract the house guests as they're running up the stairs. Although the only person it distracts is Ashley, who just trips up.
I think Sarah tripped too and dumped out half her bucket they showed the one time.
Zach never told me what to do here.
Zach didn't teach me how to run upstairs. They were really setting Ashley up to be the first out of this competition, then it was just like, oh, Sarah is out. And then Ashley quits the competition. What is it with people quitting competitions this year?
Peely's a true inspiration.
Ashley just gives up and lets Godfrey win the first part.
Well, if you look at the wide spanning shot while the competition is on, he's very far in front of her, so might as well.
And then we get another impressive build for part 2. In the final front gear...
Pun!
Yeah, massive eye roll at that pun. The 2 remaining house guests, Ashley and Sarah, must complete a puzzle with 16 clues provided to link up house guest face. And Ashley absolutely smoked Sarah. She beat her by 17 minutes. 17 minutes. That's insane.
It's quite a bit.
Sarah was more than 5 times slower than Ashley at this puzzle.
But it didn't matter in the end.
I think the question is how did Ashley do it so fast?
Yeah. Because they showed more of Sarah completing it as well. They made it look like Sarah was going to pull it out. And then, Ashley absolutely killed it.
That was the first time I had no idea how the competition was going to end, besides who ended up winning. So it was a real surprise. It was pretty much a real surprise when I thought Sarah was edited going to win, but then Ashley just pulls at it again, and I was like, crap. As I'm sure most of the audience was saying as well. Crap. Except maybe I don't know, Ashley's family or something. Even they probably were cheering for Brittany anyway. So
I went into this finale knowing that Sarah won, but I didn't know who was second and who was third. So as soon as it got down to Godfrey versus Ashley, I was like, right, Godfrey's got to win this HOH competition, because there's no way that Ashley would A, take Sarah, or B, lose a jury vote to anyone.
Unfortunately.
So Sarah went on the campaign trail after losing part 2, and she tells Godfrey that Ashley would absolutely cream him. Correct. And then she threatens Ashley that if she wins HOH and evicts her, she won't get a jury vote.
Which is pretty much just a given any time that somebody wins the final HOH, is that they're probably not going to receive the jury vote of the person they evict. I mean, there's been probably a few exceptions over the years, especially the most recent season of Big Brother Canada. But that's when the bonds are that way with all 3 of them, and none of those 3 have been tightly aligned at any point during the season, which is another reason why this is such a strange final 3, is because all 3 of them came from very different sides of the house. That, that's pretty much a given. You don't really have to tell Ashley that, especially when Zach probably told her about that possible scenario before he was evicted from the house.
Zach prepared her for everything, except for telling her how many hours Cindy was in the house second time. That lazy bastard.
So, continuing the tradition of American winners visiting the jury house in the finale, Ian Terry gets to join them.
And it's a much more enjoyable visit than Dan's visit from last season because Ian actually understands how a jury works. He flat out tells them that the jury is always votes for who they can accept that they can lose to once the season is over and done with, as opposed to Dan's speech from last year saying, "Don't be a bitter jury, guys."
Oh, but I think he was still recovering from the fact that he lost to Ian Terry of all people. So
Ian was so scripted in this, though.
But true.
He's even worse than me at reading off a cue card. Let's be honest. I know my fault.
Jordan, what do you think about this final two?
Zach, you've been close to Ashley.
Yeah. I think the teleprompter was probably just behind Zach in that moment.
He was mostly right though. Like, you know, as big of a, as, you know, quote, big of a character as Dan is, he, like, the twisted, weird monster thing he became during Big Brother 14 was basically doomed to, you know, lose against anyone, really. He became basically Russell Hanson, the whole, you know, play the worst possible way possible that will lose you the most amount of jury votes. I mean, even if the jury in general wasn't, you know, anti-attorney and wasn't going to crown anything to win unless it was like Dan versus Brittany or something, like, you know, Dan didn't do himself any favors. Like, Dan's funeral, and, you know, if he had this like weird like disturbing speech planned out for the if he won the final head of household, where he was talking about he was going to vote out Danielle and talking about how, you know, at the end of the horror movie you find out it's your best friend. I vote to evict Danielle. That's basically what it would have been. So, like, you know, Ian Terry, like, as much as uncomfortable of a character as he is at some time, like, you know, with the whole, you know, creepiness towards certain female house guests, the tryhardness, the camera mugging, all that sort of stuff. He at least has a good understanding of game theory. So, an actual understanding of game theory was what I should say. He also watches a lot of international seasons of Big Brother. So
he does ask the question to the jury, what has gotten Godfrey to the final three? To which Brittany goes, me.
Owned.
Brittany.
And Ian completely and utterly trolls them with this twist, asking them what it's like to still have a say in who wins. The subtext being, one of you won't have a say.
Wah, wah.
So, the final HOH competition. And in this final competition, Ashley and Godfrey will be asked 7 questions, each with either an A or B answer about the jury. The person with the most right after 7 questions will be the final head of household.
In other words, it is like every part 3 to every final HOH competition over the past 10 years.
Without, well, every Canadian one, because the American one still does the jury statements completing.
But it's always like A or B is always the answer. It's always like first to however many wins. And this is actually the most suspenseful version of this challenge that I think we've ever seen. Yeah,
it's never gone to 2 extra questions and a tiebreaker.
All came down to chalk. This season came down to
Cindy
hours.
with S, as it should.
It started with an S and it ends with an S. Ow!
Grammatically correct.
Point for me. I'm on the board.
Ding, 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 ding.
After the first 4 questions, Godfrey is 4-2 up, but then somehow manages to squander it, and it ends up being 5-5. Then 2 extra questions where they both get exactly the same answers. And then down to the tiebreaker question of how many hours was Cindy's second stay in the Big Brother house. Ashley goes 300, Godfrey goes 260, and because it's the person who gets closest without going over, Godfrey wins with an answer when the answer is 284.
What's hilarious is that whenever Godfrey was shown counting on his fingers, he always got that question wrong. I just want to yell at him to stop counting on his fingers, because clearly that strategy was not working out.
I mean, you were Godfrey's main cheerleader, I think, on the entire internet anyway, Logan. And as the final head of household, Godfrey must evict the final person to the jury. And in a shocking turn of events, he evicts Ashley to break up the showmances for good. Godfrey's speech about evicting Ashley was amazing, though.
I don't think anybody wanted to see somebody part of a showmance win each of the first 3 seasons of Big Brother Canada. I think it wouldn't have been good for the series overall, and especially
to be fair, John and Netta weren't a showmance yet. They're just like
correct. It was a post showmance.
Yeah, they're like,
or just a romance.
It was basically an emotional affair, but an emotional affair with everything but the actual, showmance. But yeah, it wasn't an actual showmance yet.
And when the jury come out, Arissa introduces Cindy as Cindy with an S.
Because she deserves that title. To be addressed by her title.
Also, can we just talk about Bobby's shirt?
Does it compete with Rob the Generals from Survivor Marquesas?
It's pretty close. I can't remember someone else wearing a naff Hawaiian shirt since the General. Because that shirt was very Bobby.
Condescending and self-righteous? How can a shirt be condescending and self-righteous?
And Jordan addresses his question to the lady pleaser, Sarah. And Brittany obviously throws Sarah a softball question, but she rightly gives Brittany credit.
A lot of these were softball questions. There wasn't really anybody being particularly grilled. I've noticed that I think the other telltale sign that Godfrey was not going to be winning this final 2 showdown is that when the jurors primarily ask questions to your opponent, that's not a very good sign. It means they have that person in mind more so as who they want to win this game, and they're just hoping that person gives the correct answer to their question.
Above everything else, though, Sarah had a very good performance.
Yeah. That was probably one of the most impressive series of responses to the questions, especially when they're probably only given like 15 to 20 seconds for each response like it's an American political debate.
Sarah had one of the more dominant performances in a jury questioning I've seen in reality TV in a long while.
Andy from Big Brother 15 did good. That's because he's a speaking coach. So, I mean, regardless of the fact that he is Andy, he did a good job of that.
I know they always say, especially with Survivor, that the jury's mind is basically made up when they are at the final tribal council. The questions don't really matter. But I think she probably won a couple of votes because of that.
Out of the 7 people who did vote for Sarah, who could have voted for Godfrey? Ashley was never going to. I don't think Peely was. Brittany was never going to. Cindy was never going to. Willow was never going to.
I think Kevin, Zach and Jordan might have actually voted for Godfrey if Sarah hadn't owned up. I honestly do think that they were up in the air.
Yeah, I guess they're the type.
But the thing that tips us off, though, is that Peely voted for Sarah. So I wonder if the plan always was just to vote for Sarah in the case that Ashley was evicted.
I certainly wouldn't be surprised if Sarah did win a couple of votes from that jury questioning, because she did kick ass. Also, Arissa, yet again, for the second season in the trot, has to emphasise it's a vote to win, not a vote to evict.
Poor Topaz.
2 years later, and she still doesn't get left alone at the finale night. She's immortalized now.
Yeah, even better is then Jordan basically says exactly the same thing when he's voting. Whoops, nearly did Topaz then. Also, I know I've been a little bit hard on the production design with the shoehorning steampunk stuff in, but that jury box was phenomenal. That was an impressively good build.
It was a nice build.
Also, Cindy's vote was secured with an S.
She's really trying to trademark that letter for herself.
And Jordan is the lucky winner of the being evicted out of the jury.
Godfrey didn't do too well in this final 2 jury question. Do you think that Godfrey knew he was going to lose going into it, and that he tried to keep up the fact that he played a better game than he thought he did just because he wanted to keep that, legacy and reputation long term?
I think if he knew he was going to lose, he probably chose Sarah because he knew she was more of a fan favourite. I wouldn't be surprised if the reason that he went with Sarah is because he knew he was going to lose and wanted to make sure that the fans were happy with the result.
To which I say, good on you, Godfrey.
Godfrey is the saviour of the season.
Which is pretty much what it boils that down to in several cases of Final 3 eliminations, that It's not even the jury that really has the biggest say. It's just whoever wins final HOH, and if it's the person that's going to finish in second place in both scenarios, they actually act as the ultimate deciding factor as to who wins the whole game.
Kind of like Lil from Pearl Islands.
Exactly. Except I think Godfrey could probably take on Lil in a final 2 scenario.
But not in a squat competition. Back where I'm from, we call these squats.
Oy.
And Bruno thinks that he made up for the double veto twist not happening by getting Jordan evicted. Not exactly sure if that was Bruno's move or not. I would probably attribute that more to, I don't know,
Cindy and Bobby. Cindy and Bobby. Even though Bobby had to be like handheld through the entire process because he's a fucking idiot, it did hinge on Bobby, so it was his decision. I mean, technically, it couldn't have happened without Bruno's vote, because it was like, Bruno, Brittany, Sarah, Cindy, and Bobby who had to get them out, had to vote out Jordan, so it couldn't have happened without all 5 of them. So, numbers were essential, though. So, I mean, technically he's right, but don't take credit for it.
However, the most impressive thing of the entire season happened in one of the montages.
Does it involve Brittany?
It does indeed. Brittany can fit her entire fist in her mouth. That is impressive.
Oy.
I like how we all had that in our notes.
Well, she's a model. She has tiny, dainty hands.
I watched all 3 of the filler montages, and the one thing that I got out of it was, holy shit, Brittany can fit her fist in her mouth. That's awesome.
And keep Bobby out of the kitchen, because I guess Bobby does as well cooking as he does with the game of Big Brother.
And with getting out of his parents' basement.
Yeah, maybe after watching the footage of, just burning down the whole kitchen there, maybe Bobby's parents will want him to move out a bit earlier now.
Bobby's cooking skills are sort of comparable to his not going to swingers resort skills. Accidentally, of course. Twice.
And the funniest image from that montage, other than Brittany's fist in her mouth, is Cindy randomly lying in the freezer.
Yes, I forgot about that. And by a vote of 7-2, Sarah's our winner.
Woo!
Yay!
That's pretty much what I wrote down right before the vote reveal too. I'm thinking Sarah wins 7-2, only getting the true Chop Shop voters for Godfrey. And Arissa calls Sarah an inspiration, so not only is Ashley Bethany Hamilton, but so is Sarah.
Do we sort of gloss over Jordan being voted out of the jury, and how they actually had the eviction, and how they actually had the eviction music, and then then he was sort of had to casually walk on over to the pre-jury where Greg sort of gave him a hug and Johnny was sort of sitting there patting his seat.
What they should have done was brought them out onto the stage and put them over trapdoors like early 2000s game show Russian Roulette.
Yes.
I'm actually up for any option that could possibly kill Jordan. I'm kidding.
No, it was only a 6-foot drop. They were told to basically crouch as soon as they got dropped.
Courtney Moon wouldn't have been able to be on Russian Roulette. I'll just put that one out there.
So, does Sarah's win improve this season?
Oh yeah. I still
just
think
as Final 2 in general was amazing.
It's probably the weakest Big Brother Canada season, but it's probably got the best winner. So,
and Sarah's inspirational speech when she won as well.
I like all of the Big Brother Canada winners. I really like Sarah. So
I know we couldn't have Brittany win, and I know that Brittany was the huge target as soon as anyone but Sarah or Brittany won veto. But I think Sarah's a good replacement for her.
Yeah, if Brittany couldn't win and Cindy Vaness couldn't win, Sarah was good too.
And do we think that Godfrey made the right move?
I don't think he had a right move at the end. He probably lost his... I think the fact that Godfrey just didn't find at least one person to rally for him on the jury is probably what ensured that he was going to lose from Final Four onwards no matter what, because nobody was truly defending him or rooting for him on the jury.
Do you think that it helped Sarah's game that Brittany was evicted at Final Four?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was thinking about this last week. Because Brittany got evicted at Final Four, she could then go to the jury house for a couple of days and basically be Sarah's champion.
I think Godfrey's strategy would have worked better in like a Big Brother US season where they actually cast reprehensible people. But like Big Brother Canada is like the worst person this season was Greg, and he was just sort of a casual misogynist. So like you don't have any like Gina Marie's take to the end and win again. So the Florida strategy doesn't really work because everyone there likes everyone else sort of, so they can sort of they can sort of like they like each other basically, not like where Gina Marie or insert who else was not liked in Big Brother US who made the final two and lost. Allison.
Big Brother
Allison.
9. I know what you were getting at, Ben, because that's what I had written down too with Godfrey's. Godfrey's strategy is really good, but it's really good if there's two people that are on opposing sides of the house that he could have taken to the final three and then just have himself set up so well in the final three, sort of like with Dr. Will and Big Brother 2, where you just need people that are absolutely hated with you at the end of the game to ensure that you can win when it comes down to the final jury vote, as opposed to like Godfrey trying to pick two people to take to the final three here, and they're both relatively likable people who are going to represent their respective alliances and still win a bulk of the votes, if not all of them.
Yeah, like Godfrey is like a sort of successful floater in that he got far and he was sort of a target, but he wasn't like, the number one target of a lot of the time. It was usually Cindy or Brittany or whatever. But like, there's like the difference between his game and say June's game is that he was like he had his proactive moments, like, the move to get the push to get Zach out and that. But I'd say he was mostly a passive floater in that he relied on other people to get him through the game. Like I know all the time in Big Brother US and Big Brother Canada, you do have to rely on other people to get you through the game. But I think the difference between someone like Godfrey and someone like June is that June, when she had to, she made moves for herself and for herself only, and she was proactive in what she needed to do, like nearly 100% of the time. Like she floated, but she floated for her own benefit and never went with the house. She went with what was best for her. But with Godfrey, he doesn't have that proactivity, and alongside that, and not having anyone to root for him on the jury, and not having anyone reprehensible to sit next to, he sort of like kind of flopped as a floater. Like I enjoy him as a house guest, but as a player, his strategy wasn't suited for this season or this cast.
And finally, what worked and didn't work for the season?
I love the theme.
The theme grew on me. They were a little bit blatant in shoehorning it in the first couple of weeks.
I like the theme too. I don't really have much more to add. Especially with part one of the final HOH competition, I thought that was a really cool build.
Yeah, part one of the final HOH competition was so much greater than the first veto competition, where it was just weird.
I think sort of what they need to do better for the next season is basically have more control over getting rid of the awful first alliance of inevitably forms every season, like the Quattro, the first five, the Chop Shop. They need to be out like ASAP. So
I think they need to dial back on the ridiculous twists as well.
Yeah, Dr. Will just completely blasted Big Brother Canada all over Twitter for that. It even got into like Huffington Post articles around here, I believe, where they even said like Dr. Will mocks Canada was pretty much their headline.
I think it's a bit hypocritical for Will. I made production bring back a non-All-Star to All-Stars so I could have my friend with me, Kirby, to be criticizing a production team for undermining the core of the game when, what I just mentioned. I can't with people who insist that, like, all these twists that undermine the core of the strategy of the game. It's like, yeah, I'm never talking to you.
As much as the twist worked out very much in everyone's favour who we liked, it did get to the point where we had, like, 5 weeks of not a non-normal eviction in a row. It does sort of weird you out a little bit. Having said that, if there is a similar person to Brittany next season who we all love, by all means, give her another coup d'etat, because that was awesome. Yeah,
it just sucks for Sarah for Sarah and Brittany that just reading through various comments online that people that were huge fans of them are now being forced to somewhat discount their victory just because of the overload of twists, which in Big Brother, that's kind of ridiculous because of how many twists there are. But just the general perception of Big Brother this season, for Big Brother Canada this season, is that even though the twists worked in favor of keeping the good people around, it was just so blatant and just over the top that it almost took it, like it didn't feel like a proper victory, I guess, at the end is pretty much what it seems like is the general reaction online.
Well, to be fair, the average Big Brother fan in the US is creepy and scary, and I don't want anything to do with them, so they can just discount their opinion completely. Like, they're the kind of people who send death threats to Shelley's daughter when she votes out Jess Schroeder. So
anything else to add before we close the book on this season?
I wish Godfrey would have won.
So if we had to have if you had a top three favorite contestants of the season, who would they be?
SSB. Not necessarily in that order, but
SSB for me.
It's tough to narrow it down to three for me. I think Sarah and Brittany pretty much have to share the number one spot together, along with Godfrey. It's really tough to distinguish between those three for me. And then for pure entertainment value overall this season, I think Cindy and Greg have to share the spot after that.
It's no You Want Good TV, though, is it?
That's pretty much what it would be.
Yeah, I'm not going to endorse Greg like that. I mean, he's not my least favorite of the season, and I like that he vowed to go against Chop Shop once he was in the pre-jury. But yeah, what about least favorites?
I think that was fairly obvious. Probably Bobby, Bruno, Zach.
Kevin, Johnny, Zach.
Really, Johnny?
Yeah, I'm like, what did Johnny add? That was pretty much my thinking when I was going through a list of what did Johnny really add to the season.
He was a mate shield for the fembots. One of the big good things about the season is that, like, whenever the fembots made a new ally, they sort of like roped them in and made them a better character. Like Willow was like nothing before her final week when she was like in her final week or two she became a Sarah ally, and then suddenly she becomes more visible, more interesting, and you become more invested in her victory, in her then almost obvious victory.
Willow was already, though, hilarious with her reactions to everything. With her getting electric shocked.
They're not hilarious enough. And like once Johnny was like torn away from the Kevy Webby story and made into like a faithful ally of the fembots, he became much more palatable character to me. And like Neha as the proto fembot who got struck down by Kevy Webby before her prime. Basically, my enjoyment of a character, besides Risha, because she's just an amazing entity unto herself, my enjoyment of the character of this season basically tied into how close were you to the fembots.
Risha's legacy will be her intro shot, though. There is very little that any of us are going to remember about Risha in the coming years, apart from the fact that she was introduced pole dancing in Toronto.
There's also the fact that she got voted out by the public, and also, what was it?
Voted out over Peely by the public, which would have never happened if that vote took place 2 or 3 weeks later.
Or had we gotten access to the feeds.
Quite proud of the fact that I voted against Peely still.
And she went on top without a top. And she tore down Peter on the sideshow.
Yes, she did. That was amazing. As much as Peter has been better on the sideshow this season, especially with regards to the Zach stuff, it was hilarious to see Risha put him on blast.
Put him in his place.
She crushed him. And I think she would have been great if she would have stayed a bit longer.
She obviously would have been a fembot. Imagine Risha, Neha, Brittany, and Sarah all being the dominant alliance of the season.
Imagine that as our final four.
Well, what about Godfrey? Godfrey's got to replace one of those four.
Well, yeah, he's in my top 4.
But, of course, the number one character of the season has to be Arissa Cox.
I thought it was Ashley was the number one character, because Zach told us that she's the number one character.
Arissa had a very good season. And on that note, thank you for listening to us. We're off to hibernate for about 4.5, 5 weeks now. But Logan and I will return in July for Amazing Race Canada 3. If you want to follow any of us on Twitter, you can do so at the handles posted down below. See you there.
Hashtag 250, hashtag
Don't use that,
Super
Logan,
Gulaki,
don't use that.
YATNcast.
Hold on.
You literally just made Ben cough himself to death. If Ben doesn't return in July now, it's your fault, Logan.
Fine, I'll let you have the.
I want your coughs on my hands.